Hello and welcome to Expedition 33 of the HamCorp Training Manual. In this episode, we will set up the full Utopian Akreyrium line, doing all three charged lepton lines. We will also set up the component Nexus, Titan Forge, and dual-chambered vacuum complex. I just scaled up debris a little bit. Basically just used the parallel multis instead of the LCR and the large electrolyzer. So it's a little bit faster now. I needed to do this because I needed to stockpile a whole bunch of netherite and debris for the ancient Stargate, which is going to need a lot of that stuff. I've also taken a short look at the aquarium line, and it is long. And it needs lepton sparse aquarium, which needs more netherite reinforced meshes, so even more netherite required. Anyway, I got done crafting up the folding aquarium stabilizer, at least the controller, but I'm not sure where to actually build this and the rest of the line. Probably in the Abydos processing area, somewhere here maybe. I wonder if I can already condense down some of these lines, like these. That would be kind of nice. Or I could condense these lines over here. The plat line, tungstate to tungsten, and rutile. I guess all of those can just be moved up here in some chem plants. And then this space kind of opens up for aquarium. That's an option too. Or of course, I could expand this platform a bit. And I think this is the most likely option. I can expand this and have everything be in its correct zone. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. But first, I really want to map out this full processing line and understand what the hell is going on over here, because there's a lot going on. I do know that I'm gonna need some blank injection catalysts. These need some UHV microcomponents, but they do get fully recycled in the line with this recipe using the damaged injection catalysts, which I always get from injection mixing. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna need an injection mixer. This, however, does need Utopian Akreyrium, and I'm gonna need it to do the full processing line. To get just a little bit of starter Utopian Akreyrium, there's a bad recipe I can use, that being this one. Notice that these three are kind of very similar, and they use the three different leptons, the electron, muon, and tau, and they give me 500 millibuckets of Utopian Akreyrium per cycle. This one gives me 10 millibuckets, and it takes 6 times as long, but it's super duper free. It's just lepton flux aquarium and crystalline aquarium, both of which I get in the same ratio from cyclonic sifting. So really, I should set up my cyclonic sifter. I already have an extra one that's not hooked up. Get this going, get this built up, and have this kind of on passive for a little bit. And once I have my Utopian Akreyrium, then I can actually do the injection mixing route and do all of this cool stuff. Ooh, one thing I just missed. This is lepton flux aquarium, but I get lepton sparse aquarium from cyclonic sifting. I also get this amorphous aquarium, and luckily these two things combined in the same ratio, again, in a mixer to get lepton flux aquarium. This needs liquid lepton coalescing superalloy, which is made in an ABS with basically just a bunch of random dusts and thallium tungstate, which needs to be chem reacted to be created. But yeah, this is basically just a random alloy. I crafted up 256 buckets of lepton flux aquarium by hand, well, by pattern. I'm going to convert this to Utopian. That should be enough to make an injection mixer, as well as a manifold centrifuge. And getting those will allow me to do the full aquarium line. I don't know if I'm going to need more than just one of each. Probably will. But I'm going to map this out with a full proper flowchart. So there is an automation challenge with this multi-block. As you may notice, you always get the same lens that you put in out of the multi-block. I can only place a ULV input bus on the left and right ends of this multi-block. The automation challenge is pretty simple. I basically just need to reroute the lens from the output bus back into the input bus, and I've just done that with a simple subnet that connects to an output bus and a storage bus on the input bus. I'm saying bus a lot. I do get a partial refund of the lepton coalescing superalloy back, so it's actually just a net spend of 144 millibuckets and not 864 millibuckets. So that's kind of a nice refund. As for actually starting the craft, it's just a simple receiver subnet with a storage bus on an input hatch and another storage bus on the other input bus. So the item goes there, the fluid goes here. And basically that's it. Not the hardest automation challenge in the world, but I'm glad there was something, because just putting down a machine that takes inputs and spits out outputs was starting to get a little boring. Cool, let me get my first few buckets of Utopian Akreyrium. I also started building just a little bit, just because it was like, it's a little too lawn-basey right now. I gotta fix that. So I just started building something kind of random. I didn't really have a plan, so I didn't really record it, but yeah, right now it's just a cube, and I'm gonna chisel it into something beautiful. Or at least, that's the plan. Anyway, the aquarium. First thing I'm gonna craft, injection mixer and manifold centrifuge. Before I put these machines down, I just want to talk about this line, because this line is beautiful. It's really perfect in its ratios, and there's no like underflow or overflow of material. It's really nice. So it actually starts over here on the right, kind of. The starting point is here, the lepton sparse aquarium. This is what I get from the cyclonic sifter. This gets centrifuged in the new multi-block to make tau sparse aquarium, muon sparse aquarium, and electron sparse aquarium. And it's done in this ratio. 2 parts of tau sparse, 2 parts of muon sparse, and 1 part of electron sparse. This gets processed with some injection catalysts to make the dense aquarium, and this is what's actually used in the next step to get Utopian Akreyrium. The fact that it's in this ratio is really nice, because the optimal way to process this requires this exact ratio, so that's nice. And the damaged injection catalysts, like I theorized before, basically get perfectly recycled with a little bit of neutronium. So remember this ratio of 2-2-1. If I go all the way to the left of this flowchart, and I make some lepton flavor foundational flux, 2-2-1 is the exact ratio in which I split this for further processing. Each batch gets processed in its own processing line, 1 for each of the 3 charged leptons, so 1 for tau, 1 for muon, 1 for electrons. And let's cover electrons first, because it's the longest one. So lepton flavor foundational flux gets mixed to make monophase electron infusion flux, which gets distilled to get some liquid lepton coalescing superalloy, which is going to be fully used in a few steps, and some diphase electron infusion agent dust, which is polarized for triphase, which is separated into weak gamma phase, weak beta phase, and alpha phase. Weak gamma can be mixed to make gamma, weak beta can be mixed to make beta, gamma can be polarized into beta, can be polarized into alpha, which is great. And this gets combined with that coalescing superalloy in exactly the right amount, again, clearly by design, in the injection mixer to get alternating electron infusion flux. And this is what goes into the electron injection catalysts to make the dense aquarium. So that's the electron line. The muon line is pretty simple. The foundational flux is mixed to make twinkling muon infusion flux, 3 parts of which will get further processed and 1 part of which goes into the output. So those 3 parts get LCR'd with lava to make glowing muon infusion flux. And now 2 parts get processed and 1 part goes away. Those 2 parts get LCR'd to make shining muon infusion flux. Half of it goes away and half of it is processed one last time into radiant muon infusion flux. Now all 4 tiers of this muon infusion flux get recombined in the injection mixer to make brilliant muon infusion flux. And this goes into the injection catalyst. Nice. And finally, the taus. This one is kind of the most complex, I guess. So the lepton flavor foundational flux gets mixed with mercury to make light tau infusion flux. This is distilled into aspects of weight, super light infusion flux, and heavy infusion flux. The goal is to get super light, super heavy, and an aspect of weight together. You can split this perfectly in the following way. So 1 part of aspect of weights go into the mixer, 2 parts go into a brewery with half of your super light tau infusion flux to make heavy tau infusion flux, and then the other 2 parts of aspect of weight and the remaining super light tau gets sent to either the mixer or the injection mixer, depending on which one. Now that heavy tau infusion flux is combined with osmiridium to make super heavy, and then finally we bring it all back together in the mixer to make ethereal tau infusion flux. And that goes into tau injection catalysts. And then we get the dense aquarium. Amazing. Actually just an awesome, super well planned line. Really nice. Alright, here we go. This is a giant line. It could be condensed down quite a bit, but I think just for the aesthetics of having 3 different layers for the 3 different sublines, I think this is really nice. The top line is for taus, the middle line is for muons, the bottom line is for electrons, and the bottom line is also for the shareholders. But this most bottom floor is for kind of more general processing of this stuff. So I have the manifold centrifuge here making the sparse aquarium types. I have this injection mixer which makes lepton flavored foundational flux. I have 1 injection mixer each for each of the tau dense, muon dense, and electron dense aquariums. And then I have 3 canning machines and 3 assemblers for the recycling. I decided to do 3 so that I could have these thingies, the blank injection catalysts, kind of looped without mixing the amounts. So the top one handles 160 of them, so does the middle one, and the bottom one handles 80 of them. And that's the way I need to divide these things for the correct ratio of electron to muon to tau. Now, this all runs at UHV and it is still quite slow, and I'm basically at my power limit. If I request something big, I'm definitely gonna power fail. And now is the time for me to reveal to you 2 little secret things I've been working on. First of all, I've made 1,320 activated Stargate rods. I need these for the 660 ASG rod bases that I need to make. So I've kind of been crafting these in the background. And my other secret project, I made 3 more Ox ones. And I think I am gonna share them in like a goofy way because it might look cool, but the plasma situation it's okay for now, but it's not really keeping up. And I've learned that americium plasma is actually not the best plasma for me. I'm still gonna run it because it's the best way for me to make americium. It's by running the plasma through the turbines. But for power, there are other types of plasma which would be better for me to use. I still need to figure out what the best one is, and I'm gonna calculate that right now. And then I'm gonna set up these Ox ones, scale up power, and then look at continuing. So this is kind of funny. Without the reflector overclocks, americium is actually the best plasma for power gen. But with reflector overclocks, it is the worst, which is really funny to me. The best plasma for power gen is actually argon. And argon plasma, luckily, is also very cheap, just magnesium and carbon, that's super free. And the way I calculated this was basically, I looked at the rate at which things are crafted in the Ox reactor, and I looked at the total EU per millibucket values for each of the different plasmas that can be burned. And I basically multiplied those 2 things together, because that gets you an EU per second, which you can convert to EU per ticks. So in amps of UEV, each Ox makes, before turbine bonuses, 1.7 amps of UEV with americium plasma, and 5 amps of UEV with argon plasma. Obviously the turbine bonuses are very important, and they matter, but the ratio of those numbers remains the same even with turbine bonuses. Argon plasma is more than twice as good as americium. So I will leave this one doing americium because I need americium, and this is definitely the best way for me to make americium right now. But the 3 new Oxes I've made are all going to be put on argon plasma, and I'm probably going to make more SPTs and put them on argon plasma as well. Oh, look at this wall share. It's so nice. Plasma cube. Everyone comment plasma cube. Making a whole 20,000 argon plasma per second. That's pretty good. Each, so times 3. That's 60,000 argon plasma per second. This is going up very quickly. I need to start burning this. I'm curious to see how much gets consumed per cycle in these multis. 122 buckets per cycle. Each cycle is 27 seconds. That's fine. This is consuming 4.6 thousand argon plasma per second each. So 3 of these still cannot compete with even 1 of these. I can make more SPTs, and I'm gonna do that. It's 4 for each, so I need another 9 SPTs to fully max this out, and I'll still have a little bit of excess. Alright, I'm gonna get to crafting. Wait. Before I do that, I can upgrade the rotor holder on these to UHV. That's gonna double the EU per tick produced, increase the efficiency a little bit, and double the plasma that's used. So it'll be 2 for each Ox instead of 4. So I'm gonna need 6 SPTs in total, so I need another 3. Okay, that's nicer because placing these active transformers and routing things around with lasers kinda sucks. Alright, this is significantly more power. It's kind of awesome. To finish up here, I need to automate the production of Utopian Akreyrium itself. I've basically brought it to this final step. I just need to make a few more folding aquarium stabilizers and set them up to passively process the dense aquarium into Utopian Akreyrium. In the future, I will be able to do this recipe with lepton dense aquarium, which is better. This requires leptonic aquarium catalyst, which is made with a 1:2 ratio of electron to muon to tau dense aquarium, which is exactly what I have. Isn't that so satisfying? But that's in the future. For the rest of today, I would like to do 2 more things. That being the aquarium, like I mentioned, and also I want to make absolute stabilization modules, which are required for some multi-blocks. For example, the component nexus. This is a machine used for crafting components between LUV and UV without the need for ordered inputs and at double the speed. It does need absolute stabilization and it has throughput boosting, so this is going to be very fast. I haven't actually checked if it's going to be significantly faster than the assembly lines, but I imagine it will be. On top of that, just taking some of the crafting stress off of the assembly lines, freeing them up for just mainframes is pretty nice. Then I can do components at the same time as mainframes instead of having to wait for one before starting the other. Now, there aren't any new blocks over here except for the absolute stabilization module, and crafting this thing seems pretty straightforward at this point. The stabilization module is also pretty easy to make, just need some UHV parts. Once I have those done, we can actually start the real grind for the ancient Stargate. Utopian Akreyrium has been set up, and this is really fast. Way faster than what it used to be, because I do need a lot of Utopian Akreyrium for the ancient Stargate. The component nexus is currently crafting, and while I'm at it, I'm also going to craft a Titan forge. This is totally doable, nothing new, but what it does is it lets me make wire spools for way cheaper. 8 ingots per spool instead of 12. That's a huge saving on all of these materials. There's nothing special about this multi, just a parallel hatch compatible multi. That's all there is to it. Yeah, Titan Forge is nice. This thing is nice, way faster. And finally, the Nexus. Oh yeah, component Nexus is pretty awesome. It's also saved quite a bit of space on this pattern provider, so that's nice. And I decided to use a pattern buffer here because there are 24 recipes in total. So 1 buffer is enough for every recipe that's possible in this multi-block. And if I need to scale this up, it's super easy. I just make copies of this and I use buffer proxies. And each proxy basically has access to the contents of this pattern buffer. The Stargate's gonna need a lot of runic convergence and fusion, which means I need a better vacuum chemical reaction chamber. Oh, look at that. A dual-chambered vacuum complex. That's exactly what I need. A throughput-boosted vacuum chamber. And look at that, I've already crafted it. Crazy. It's almost like I planned for the future. Not very well though, I should have made like 10. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. In the next episode, Ancient Stargate perhaps? We will definitely try. Quick reminder that employees who like, comment, and subscribe are far more likely to survive what's coming. See you next time.